friends, today I'm kicking off a new series on this channel where I'm going to be showing you the projects that I worked on throughout design school. I think it's always fun to look back at work you've done in the past and think about how far you've come since then, what you've learned. And I thought for design school projects in particular, it would be really interesting for me to go through them and show you what the projects were that were part of my degree, and also for me to tell you what I would do differently now that I've had 8 years of industry experience looking back on this work. Personally, I love watching videos of people walking through projects from their design degree. It's fun to see the similarities and the differences between degrees all over the world. So for some context, I studied a Bachelor of Design at Massey University in Wellington, and I majored in Visual Communication Design. It was a 4-year degree, so the series is going to be 4 videos long, one for each year of the degree, showing you the projects that I have saved. I haven't saved all of them, unfortunately, but there's a good amount here that this is going to be really fun to go through. So I hope you will join me on this trip down memory lane. Let's get into it. So the first year of the Massey design degree, which I did in 2007, so this was quite a while ago, keep that in mind when we're looking back at my work. For the first year back when I studied, it was a very general year where there were students from all different design disciplines, because in my degree you could major in like fashion design, animation, or visual communication like I did, photography. There was a bunch of different majors all in together in classes. And the core classes were called Creative Studio, where we were given a brief and then we had to answer it using varying different mediums. And they were sort of more, like, it felt quite fine artsy, to be honest. It was more arty than it was, you know, this is a client design brief that you're answering. It was more about getting inspiration and expressing yourself creatively, that sort of thing. And I really struggled with it. I wasn't like in that zone going into university. I'd been very by the book in high school, you know, like, what do I have to do to get a good grade? That's what I'm going to do. So this was a challenge for me, which I think was a good thing. Like, I needed to go through it. I needed to kind of suck at it a little bit in order to realize like what it was going to take to be a creative professional. So anyway, our first big project involved going down to Cuba Street, which was one of the main streets in Wellington. And back then anyway, I haven't visited it for a while, so I'm not sure if it still is, but it was kind of like an alternative, like cool zone, I guess. Bunch of different weird shops, some that have been like your institutions that have been there forever, and then some newer ones, that sort of thing. And yeah, we just had to observe, take our sketchbooks and observe for a couple of sessions. And that meant like sketching things around us, making notes of stuff, just trying to get a feel for the vibe of the street. People got really into it. I remember I had this vision in my head of this one student like literally picking up cigarette butts from the ground and sticking them into their sketchbook, which I thought was kind of gross. But that was the sort of like art school thing we were doing at the time. Once we'd done the sketches, we then had to create sculptures based off of them. And that's what I have some photos of to show you. This first one, I'm pretty sure is actually a representation of cigarette butts and like where they were on the ground. I think I drew a little map in my sketchbook and then built this from it. It's quite funny because this is actually something that I still do today. Not draw maps of cigarette butts, but more create things like visual representations of data. I love patterns or designs to be informed by a piece of data, and like this map of where cigarette butts was a piece of data. So it's interesting to me that I'm still kind of doing that today, just maybe in a little bit of a different way. So this sculpture, well, it had different heights to it. There we go. I was trying to make it like 3D. And I think these first ones were kind of sculptural sketches, so they weren't meant to look very good, which is good because they don't. You were just kind of getting your ideas out there, just like you would when you're sketching in a sketchbook, you know? This one I think was like the pathways people were walking, maybe? I don't know. This one here, I think you can start to see that I really struggled with the 3D aspect of sculpture. This isn't something that I'd done before. I'd generally been doing like design on a computer, you know? And so this more artsy thing was difficult for me because, yeah, this is quite a flat piece really, even though the bottom part is 3D. I just found it hard to think in 3D, I guess. And yeah, I was sticking with boxes. I think I was inspired by the bricks. I think that's what this is, and then what this was too. Cuba Street had this big pedestrian zone with these brick patterns, so I think I sketched a lot of them in my sketchbook. I don't know what the red and the black was coming from in particular. To be honest, it was probably just the color paper that I had, but I remember a lot of students were at this stage putting a lot more effort into their craft than I was. They were like, you can use a drill to straighten pieces of wire, and they were doing that, but I don't know, I felt really out of place in the workshop, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't ask for help, and so I ended up with pieces that looked like this. So let that be a lesson to you. I feel like I was starting to be onto something here, like these overlapping shapes and things, but I think that I didn't do a good job of explaining my inspiration to my tutor, and so it didn't, like, I don't know, it felt like an accident where I was getting to, even though it kind of was, I don't know. So I was pushing this idea of the overlapping shapes, and I had these boxes. If you can see through here, I'm like pointing at the screen, like you can see what I'm pointing at. How you can see like this pattern of bricks, and then you see through to the other pattern of bricks, you know, which is kind of a cool idea. Like that makes some cool shapes. But my problem was that I didn't have like the meaning behind it. And also this was way too literal. I was using sandpaper in like brick colors, you know. So I was going with this overlapping idea, and then I think we're gonna get through, oh, that's kind of cool, the shadows. This is the idea I kind of ended up sticking with, this transparent paper with shapes on them and like looking through the shapes. And my final piece was this. Yeah, this is literally what I handed in as my final piece. Oh gosh, I struggled so much with craft as part of this. Like I couldn't get it to be neat. I think I wasn't having a lot of patience with it. I probably didn't allow myself enough time to work with it and make it neat. So it just ended up a mess. And I remember being frustrated by this project in general, because I was like, this isn't what I want to be doing with my career. I don't want to be making sculptures, so why am I having to do this? And I was just, I think, on the defensive and wasn't like giving the space to learn and be inspired by the brief. So yeah, I ended up with this as my final piece for the project, and like I said, it didn't get a good mark. I think it was maybe it was a B, I don't know, which was bad for me because I was like A student up until then. The next project for this class was a self-portrait one, where it wasn't just drawing ourselves, it was like expressing our identity through things. And I can't remember which one of these things came first, but I was really into music. Basically, you will see this as a trend throughout all of my design projects. I tried to bring music in as much as possible. I still love music a lot. I've just like gotten over having it to be involved in everything. And one thing that I found was these mixtapes that I made as like in high school. Yeah, I always loved to record songs off the radio and have them as little mixtapes for myself. So I took a bunch of pictures of these as like my inspiration materials, I suppose. And then we just had to like make stuff and keep like making things and trying things out. One thing was this little like silver cassette tape, which I assume was meant to be like, you know, like a platinum record. I did these surveys. This is so emo. Where I like got my friends to answer questions about me. Like my favorite meal, what have I got here, my family members' names, what appliance could I not live without? My phone was apparently the right answer, or my iPod. Yeah. And then this incredibly deep statement of no one knows the real me. Wow. Oh, this was a fun one where I basically put paper, this is such a design school thing to do, put paper all over this hallway in our flat, and then I played a song, and I was just like feeling the music through me and like writing as the song went. Again, terrifying. Yeah, I'm glad that this is not what I ended up in. Oh look, there's little emo me. Okay, let's stop looking at those ones for now. I made like a mixed CD instead of a mixtape, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't a deeper meaning behind it, and I'm not sure like what the point of this was, other than to just be like, there's some music that means something to me, you know? And I'm gonna put my iPod on it because that's how I listen to music. I don't know. I remember my tutor really liking the photos that I had of those mixed tapes and pushing me to go down that direction, saying like, there's something here, you know, these are such innocent little things, like these tapes you've made for yourself recording from the radio, but you know, then there's the whole music piracy thing and how that's illegal, and what do you think about that, and like maybe that's the direction you should go down. And so what I ended up with was kind of thinking like, oh, maybe it's a campaign about home taping being illegal. And I did this like crime scene, you know, where they have like little evidence markers, and wow, there's some great photoshopping there. I mean, that's the problem, I think, is that it didn't really comment on anything, the evidence bags with the tapes inside them. I definitely didn't push this far enough. I can see the idea is there, it's just, I was hurrying to make a thing. You know, I wanted to get a thing made. The teacher said piracy, so I was like, okay, we're gonna make it about piracy, and I don't think that I dug into it enough by myself. So what I ended up with this project was this series of posters about mixtapes being illegal. Yeah, not great. I remember one other student's project for this self-portrait assignment was, they had this mural on the wall, and it was like a pixel art of themselves, but it was made with coffee filters that had been stained with coffee, you know, varying shades of brown, which looked really cool. And yeah, I think again in this, my like level of craft and skill just wasn't matching up with the idea, and also I wasn't pushing the idea far enough. Let's move on to semester 2, shall we? So for semester 2, we had Creative Studio 2, so it was another like round of that general, like more artsy class. For this project, I remember we got given like a setting. I remember some people had bus or like a park, and I had a waiting room was the thing I was given. So just like when we were tasked to go down to Cuba Street and draw and like get inspired, it was kind of like go visit some waiting rooms and think about that, and that's your inspiration for what you're going to make in this project. Very general, I know. The main thing I remember making was this game here. It was called The Waiting Game, and it was about the unspoken rules in a waiting room that you don't like enter a waiting room and sit directly down next to another person waiting there if there's other chairs available. Like, you're always going to leave a gap of one. It's kind of like that unspoken rule. And so it was like this game of you follow down the pathway, and there were these little cards inside. Yeah, this sort of like instructed you on what your next turn was and that sort of thing. Then I also had put in this buzzer in one, so like if you sat down in the wrong seat, it went. I remember being really proud of getting that to actually work. And then I don't remember why this was a part of it, but I remember we also learned about bookbinding as part of this project, and we were making books. So I had done these like black and white, mostly it was spray paint, a bit of real paint, I guess, like textural drawings, I suppose, based on that inspiration of the waiting room. I think this happy, shocked, excited, anxious is like emotions you could be feeling in the waiting room. I don't know. Yeah, we did these big paintings, and then we had to cut them up, I'm remembering now, and make them into pages of a book. So I have like here this book, and I think it had to feel like a sequence, like the way you arranged it as I went through. So this is some of my pages. I don't think I have any pictures of the thing altogether, unfortunately, but yeah, that was, you can see a little stack there. That was that project. I don't think I have all the work for it, but gives you the general idea of what it was about. Very arty, and again, not super graphic design related. I apparently didn't save the work in this hard drive of most of my electives that I had this year, because as well as these 2 core classes, we got to pick some other like subjects we wanted to study. I loved photography in high school, and so I wanted to take photography class in my first year of university as well. And this was film photography, which was really fun. So we'd go into the darkroom and actually like produce our photos ourselves. I found these 2 ballet dancers who were willing to like do a session, and I could come in and take photos of them, which was really fun. And I was playing with like slow shutter speed to get this movement and stuff. I really liked that photo. Yeah, there was some cool stuff. I don't really remember what the briefs were for this, but I remember we had to do a series for our second project, and I think it had to be taken within a radius of the university, something like that. I found the stairwell that I loved, and that as I was taking photos of with short depth of field, I loved the light coming through and the textures. I still really like this photo series, to be honest. I think it's really moody and cool and quite abstract. Yeah, that was my goal, was to make it really abstract, and so that maybe you, I don't know, see it as a set and don't quite realize that it's stairs. The different light and the patterns, that sort of thing. Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and that they looked cool as a set. There's one of them. I hung these up on my wall for ages afterwards because I liked it so much, but my tutor did not like this at all. I don't know if it's because I didn't explain like it's some deeper meaning behind it or something like that, but yeah, I just remember her not being super supportive. I didn't get a good grade, and I remember there's this other student in my class who had done this series where he'd put this like little model thing onto a tree stump and taken photos of it, and I just didn't get it. I didn't think the pictures looked beautiful, like something I'd want to hang on my wall. And I remember she was like raving about his project, and so then that's when I thought, maybe I'm not going to do photography at university. I don't get it. I don't like that sort of thing that apparently you have to do to be good at it. I like this sort of stuff, so I'm not going to focus on it. Again, like I said, I had that mindset of I want to get a good grade at all costs. So these were probably some of the last film photographs that I ever produced. All right, that has been a look at my first year of design school and some of the work that I produced during it. Yeah, definitely nothing in there that is portfolio worthy, but it's fun to look back on and to remember just how difficult that year was to try and get my head around being in this super artsy place with all these artsy people. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed looking through it, and stay tuned for video number 2 of my second year of university, when we do get more into graphic design work coming up soon. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.